You ever live in a house so quiet you could hear your own thoughts? Now imagine living in one that talks back, not with creaking pipes or settling wood, but with actual voices. Faint whispers from just beneath your feet, telling you things you never told anyone, calling your name when no one else is home, begging, screaming, laughing. I know how that sounds. And I wouldn't believe it either if it hadn't happened to me. This is the story of the house on Whitlow Road. The one I bought for a steal. The one I should have never stepped foot in. The one that knows my name. I was 34 when I moved into the old house. Recently divorced, newly unemployed, and desperate to restart my life. It was one of those fixer-uppers you find buried on real estate sites. Big, cheap, and in the middle of nowhere. A real fresh start. Or so I thought. 2 stories. Wraparound porch. A view of the woods that looked almost painted. Built in 1902. It had that charm you only find in places that had once been something. Something grand. Something forgotten. I signed the papers without asking why it was so cheap. The real estate agent looked relieved. The first few days were uneventful. Quiet even. I spent my time tearing up old carpet, dusting off furniture that hadn't been touched in decades, and listening to music echo through empty halls. I liked the silence. It felt clean, like a blank page. But then the floorboards started whispering. It was the 5th night. Rain tapping on the windows, wind slipping through cracks in the wood. I was reading in bed when I heard it, faint, like breath through a straw. Hello? I froze. It hadn't come from the hallway or the room next door. It came from beneath me. From the floor. From the space between the ceiling of the first floor and the hardwood I was lying on. I stayed still. Listened. Nothing. Probably just the wind. The next night, it happened again. This time, it said my name. Eli. That's me. Eli Cooper. The voice was quiet. Almost curious. Like a child testing a name they'd just learned. I got up, checked under the bed, walked down the stairs. Nothing. The house was dead silent. I told myself it was my imagination. I'd been stressed, drinking more than usual, sleeping less than I should. I told myself a lot of things. But I couldn't lie to myself after the 3rd night. Because the voice didn't just say my name. It told me what I'd done. You left her. You let her drown. I dropped the glass I was holding. It shattered across the kitchen tile. No one knew about that. Not the full story. At least, not even my ex-wife. It had happened when I was 17. My little sister Claire. We were swimming in the lake behind our grandfather's cabin. I was supposed to be watching her. But I wasn't. I was smoking behind the boathouse, trying to be cool. And when I heard the splash, it was already too late. I told everyone I dove in as soon as I saw that I tried, that it was an accident. But that voice, it knew the truth. After that night, the house wasn't quiet anymore. Every evening, just after dusk, the voices would begin. Soft at first. Murmurs, whispers, then full sentences. Accusations, laughter. Sometimes they wept. Sometimes they screamed. Always from the floorboards. I stopped sleeping in the bedroom. I moved to the couch downstairs. That helped for a while. Until the voices followed. I tried to record them. I left my phone on the floor overnight with the voice recorder running. In the morning, I listened. Nothing. Not a sound. But I heard them while it was recording. I bought better equipment, field mic, high-sensitivity gear from a paranormal site. Still nothing. Static and silence. The voices didn't want to be heard by machines. Only me. I started noticing other things too. Objects moved slightly when I wasn't looking. A spoon on the table would turn. A door left ajar would be closed. A single red marble showed up in the corner of every room, then disappeared. And the dreams. God, the dreams. I'd see people crawling from beneath the floor, their mouths open in silent screams. Faces half melted, eyes glowing white. Some I didn't recognize, others I did. Claire was one of them. She never blamed me in those dreams, but she always looked disappointed. Desperate, I invited a friend over, Marcus, an old buddy from college. Rational guy, tech nerd. If anyone could make sense of this, it was him. He stayed one night. At 3:11 a.m., he woke me up, pale as a ghost. Said he heard scratching under the floor. We lifted the rug in the living room, moved the furniture, pried up one of the loose boards. There was nothing beneath, just darkness and the faintest sound of breathing. Marcus left before sunrise. Said he'd call. He didn't. That was 2 weeks ago. I found his car parked on the side of the road a mile away. Doors locked, keys still in the ignition. He hasn't been seen since. The voices grew louder after that, bolder. They no longer waited for nightfall. I'd hear them in the morning while brushing my teeth, in the afternoon while washing dishes. One of them started calling itself Isaac. Said he'd been buried here, that he used to live in the house before the floorboards were laid. Said he wasn't alone, that they were trapped, buried alive. I did research, dug through town records. The house had changed owners 14 times in 80 years. Most stayed less than a year. One entire family vanished in 1972. No records, no forwarding address, just gone. Another man went insane. Institutionalized after carving words into the walls of every room. They're still under us. That's when I started digging. Literally. I pulled up the living room floorboards, tore them out with a crowbar until my hands blistered. Beneath the boards, dirt, old, damp soil, black as pitch. I dug for hours. 3 feet down, I hit something. Wood. A second floor. Or rather, a ceiling. I'd been living above something buried. I broke through. And what I saw? Bones. Dozens of them, human skeletons. Some intact, some shattered. A mass grave directly beneath my house. They weren't resting peacefully either. Their bones were twisted, hands reaching upward, as if they died trying to claw their way out. I stumbled back, threw up, and the voices laughed. I called the police. They didn't find anything. By the time they arrived, the hole I dug had filled itself back in. The boards were back in place, like it never happened. They gave me a warning about wasting their time, told me to get some sleep. I haven't called them since. Now, I live in the attic. It's the only place the voices don't reach. The only place with no floor beneath me. I don't eat much. I don't sleep. Sometimes I see faces in the mirrors, hear footsteps in the walls. Sometimes the whispers turn to chants. I'm telling you this now because I don't know how much longer I'll last. Last night, I heard my own voice whispering back at me. And tonight the floor is cracking. If you ever pass through Whitlow Road and you see an old house with a red door and ivy on the walls, don't stop. Don't go near it. And if you hear your name called, don't answer. Because once they know your name, they never let you go.